Good afternoon. Welcome. My name is Dylan, and I'm coming to you live from the isolated streaming closet at Codename Entertainment in beautiful Victoria, BC, Canada. Before we begin, I would like to thank Dungeons and Dragons for hosting us on the official D&D Twitch. It is and will always be an honor to be here. And shoutouts as well to our moderator and co-producer Jay, as well as our executive producer Erica, for helping keep this show going. Okay, so my guest today doesn't really need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. So you have very likely heard his last name before if you are at all a fan of Dungeons and Dragons. You may even have heard of the book he made with his brother, The Lost City of Gaxmoor 5e, which raised over $111,000 through Kickstarter last year. You may also know him from his work on GaryCon, the annual festival celebrating the life and work of Gary Gygax, hosted annually in Lake Geneva, when travel and circumstance permit. And finally, you may know him as one of the founders and legends responsible for Founders and Legends, which will be hosting its third annual event this coming weekend. Please, everybody, give a nice warm welcome to Luke Gygax.
Hey, Dylan. Thanks very much. It's a real pleasure to be here.
I'm just glad we could make this work because I know you're busy.
Yeah, there's always something going on. And Founders and Legends 3, it's obviously going on this weekend. And as you can see, we expanded it. There is I should expanded it this way. There's a virtual gaming event that goes around the stream, which was going to be only on Saturday, which you can view on our GaryCon Twitch, and portions of it will be carried by our friends at D&D as well. But we have two channels, a Legends channel, a Founders and a Legends channel going. And as I was just getting ready to start planning this and looking at times and dates, and I had to deconflict it from Gen Con Online and San Diego Comic-Con Online, because I realized those would be competing things. So I had to move it a little bit earlier in July. But I also realized, man, this COVID-19 thing isn't making things any easier for the gaming community or anyone really that's impacting us. So I thought, why not add a virtual gaming component to it? And a lot of people stepped up in a very short time, and inside of 2 weeks we have 75 events planned, and we actually need players. So if you want to play games, and you think D&D 5e or multiple other systems that are available, you can go to foundersandlegends.com and click on the link to tabletop.events and go and join in. $10 for a player's badge, and you can play probably as many games as you want to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Cool. That's exciting. I didn't even know about that part. I thought it was, I was under the impression that it was mostly watching a bunch of Founders and Legends play games.
It is, and I just made a pitch for the virtual component just because I added that this year, but I'll talk to you a little bit about why Founders and Legends came about. As you alluded to, I have run GaryCon for, over a decade now, and it's a celebration of my father's life. It takes place, it grew out of, his funeral and the wake we held afterwards, where we got together and celebrated and remembered him and how much he loved gaming. So we gathered together, and it's grown. The last time we were able to have it, it was like almost 3,000 people that gathered together in our small town like Geneva. Well, in the early years, it was 200, 300, 400 people, and I could easily plan it and play games and hang out. With 3,000 people, I'm working all the time, and there's no way I can really relax and enjoy. And so my friends who come to visit me and hang out I've co-opted them all into staff members and workers. So they said, we don't really get to hang out at GaryCon anymore, so why don't we do something? Why don't we get together and play games? And I said, yeah, why don't we do it around my dad's birthday, which is July 27th. And so we planned that. We're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get together. And I made, I don't know if it's a mistake, of going to a D&D live event a couple of years ago. And it was so cool. I said, wow, that's pretty neat. We should stream the games that we're playing when we get together and hang out with my friends. And that's how Founders and Legends was born. So inside of 3 weeks, I put together Founders and Legends 1 with the help of Wizards of the Coast. They were very generous in their providing some advice and skill sets to me. And then Critical Role, the crew over at Critical Role, was kind enough to let us use their studio, and I hired their crew to run it. So that was shot at Critical Role, and a whole bunch of good people all kind of came together and just volunteered their time to play games. And Satine Phoenix hosted. She was co-hosted with me, and we talked about the we talked about, my idea was I wanted to play games, old and new, but I wanted to connect to people who were watching streams, which tends to be newer players that watch streams. Critical Role is immensely popular, right? But none of these people, or very few of the people who watch streams, are introduced to D&D through that venue, probably know about the foundation of the hobby, who created it, including my father, but certainly, my dad at least gets some recognition, but I wanted to give people information on, where it came from, and just kind of give them a little lesson and play some fun games and raise money for Extra Life, which is a charity that helps the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals. So it's a great cause. We played some epic adventures. We've had, Joe Manganiello played with me, so it was Melvin Archon playing in the finale game for Founders and Legends 1. Last year, I ran my first time I ran 5th edition, other than for my children, other than for my daughters, was on that stream. And I had Matt Colville, Matt Mercer, Deb Wool, TJ Storm, Kyle Newman, and of course, the CEO of Codename Entertainment himself, Eric Jordan, was my 6th player in the game. And so that was a little nerve-wracking, even for an experienced dungeon master, to kind of test my skills in front of that many masters of 5th edition. But we had a great time. and we raised like $5,000 or so, if I remember right, for Extra Life. So my purpose in using this format to reach out was to provide an entertaining format for people, have fun, raise money for charity, but also help educate newer gamers on who the founders were. And that includes guys like names you probably don't hear very often, like Dave Wesley, Dave Arneson, Dave McGarry, and my dad, Gary Gygax. And I think those 4 people were pretty seminal to the creation of what was to become Dungeons and Dragons and has spawned Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Extra Life, because it's certainly one of the highlights at Codename Entertainment every single year. Is we do a 24-hour Extra Life stream towards the end of the year, which we're really not sure what's going to happen with it this year. But it's we all just get together and play games for. Well, most of us don't make it for 24 hours, but Eric and his kids usually do. Yeah.
So is that? Yeah, I think they're doing it this year. I think they're doing this year their specific day for Extra Life that they focus on is November 7th, which will be my 50th birthday. So,
oh wow!
If we're still under lockdown, maybe I'll spend my 50th birthday gaming for kids or something.
Yeah,
and, that'd be
running games.
If I can't travel and go to somewhere crazy, that was my plans for when I was 50, is to go on a tour. And I've never been to Asia, so just do something like that, just something exciting, something adventurous. But if COVID is still a thing, which I suspect it will be, raising money for children and connecting with friends across the globe virtually is the next best thing.
So tell us a little bit about some of the game streams you have lined up for Founders and Legends this year.
Oh yeah, it's going to be another fantastic year. I mean, each year it grows a little bit, and we kind of make some refinements. The second year we added live music. We had Jason Charles Miller, who's a known streamer and voice actor, and does music and themes for a lot of things. He was there, and then friends of mine in the band Gygax, so like a heavy metal band, also played live on stage here. So that was pretty cool. This year it's virtual. We've got 2 different channels. The one that we're focusing on with the 5e kind of more current stuff is the Legends channel, and that'll be on twitch.tv/GaryCon if you want to get that. Also hosted by Realmsmith, my good friends at Realmsmith, Jason Acevedo. We're going to open up with a special event thanks to you guys. We're putting together a Friday opener that'll be showing at 5 p.m. this Friday, the 17th of July at 5 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to do a scenario that had gotten scuttled due to the physical GaryCon not happening on very short notice. We planned this scenario called The Cursed Farmer, which was a Melf launching Melf, was supposed to launch the character Melf as a champion in Idle Champions. So we're going to do that on Friday, which is tomorrow, right? Oh my my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do that tomorrow. We're going to do it tomorrow. It's the 16th day. So we're going to do that tomorrow night with DM Satine Phoenix. We're going to have B-Dave there, Aaron Evans, and Viv, and me. And we're going to play the adventure. Yeah. I have not read the adventure, even though it was shared with me previously. I purposely did not read it because I'm like, I'm going to play it. So I'm playing an earlier version of Melf. It's not an epic level game. It's an 8th level game. So I'll be a little bit more humble in my capabilities, but it promises to be a lot of fun. So that's our Friday opener. Very excited. Really very thankful to you guys for making that happen, because we put a lot of thought and effort and work into that. And then to be able to realize that is very exciting. On Saturday, we're going to roll into stream on a Legends channel. We're going to do 3 5th edition D&D games. The first one will be run by DM B. Dave Walters. That one's going to be an epic level, 20th level, I think, 18th or 20th level. He's running super high level on that one. Let me see. I don't want to get this wrong, so I'm gonna refer to my notes to make sure I got this right.
No worries.
On who's playing. Yeah, so we got in game 1, 9 p.m. Pacific, Jason Charles Miller will be back again. So he's a three-peat. We're going to have Xander Generet on. Mm-hmm. Noor Ibrahim, Todd Kenrick from D&D Beyond, good guy. Melee Damage and Trish Hirschberger are all going to join us. So that'll be game 1. Then at 1 p.m., so we'll have a little hour break between games, kind of get shifted around. We'll have some entertaining bits in between interviews and such. Mm-hmm. Then TJ Storm is going to host me, Tom DeSanto, producer of X-Men and Transformers and D&D player, Christina Ariel, Ben Looms from Sirenscape, Kyle Vogt, and then Alicia Marie. She's going to join us for The Dark Tide.
Cool.
TJ
Kyle is one of my favorite people. He's awesome.
Oh, Kyle's he's like the nicest dude in the world, and he's always been there, and he's come and he's volunteered. He'll bring like cookies, and he'll be supportive and do stuff. So he's been at every Founders and Legends, and I finally said, okay, come on, we got to get you into a game here. So he was kind enough to be patient and kind enough to be there. And I'm really glad to have him on. And then of course the finale on a finale 5e game that we're having is the season premiere of Into the Mist with Jason Acevedo, the CEO of Realm Smith, doing the DMing, and he's going to have a very special guest of Matthew Mercer. Yes, so Matthew Mercer is going to make a repeat appearance. He appeared at GaryCon during an Into the Mist, very special Into the Mist game where he was Strahd himself. So he's making a return visit. So that will be very exciting, and we hope to entertain and surprise the folks who are viewing.
I didn't catch that before. I'm sure Matthew Mercer does a very good Strahd.
Oh yeah, that Matt is really he's a super nice guy for one thing and very humble. But having sat and played with him, he's good. He really brings his characters to life. Now, of course, we've seen him as a DM on Critical Role and stuff, but he doesn't get to play as much. And I really enjoyed playing in a game with him at GaryCon 11. It was Joe and Beast and myself with Matt, and we're playing. We delved down into I think it was like a negative material play. It was like some creepy area, and just he was playing a little kobold sorcerer, I think, or like necromancer kind of guy. And he just did such a good job with the voice and describing how his spells would work, and this was, it really brought it to life. And his skill sets as an actor and voice actor really are apparent. And I think that's what makes Critical Role so engaging as something to view. And I don't have as good of skills as Matt Mercer does. I haven't honed my voices and stuff. I can DM. I have some great ideas, but it's the voices, man. That's a special skill.
Yeah. Well, that and like one of my favorite things, because when I watch Critical Role, is they spend a lot of time RPing with each other, like the cast, and just watching him sit there and just watch them, and he's like paying attention to their interactions, and he's just like, you see him make notes, and you're just kind of like, I don't know what he's planning, but he is actively listening, and And that's a skill that every DM can really work on, is just listening to their team. And yeah.
Well, that's part of, I think that's part of the magic, part of the art of being a good DM is whatever your plan is, right? You're going to have a plan. Do the players follow the plan you have for them? I haven't experienced that yet. I don't think, they're always going to throw you something different. So when you're actively listening, maybe you have those ideas and you're able to weave what they're talking about, what they want to do, and still kind of have make your storyline work, but kind of weave it together. And that's what creates this great storyline, gets their engagement, and they help you develop your story and make it better when you add in those little bits. So I guess that's why it's so popular, right? When it's done right, everybody's kind of including their own little bits. Mm-hmm. You're keeping them interested, you're keeping them engaged, you're getting that immersion, and there you go, and you get the great story. And bringing back the hero, bringing back the villains, to really zap them is a good thing.
Yeah.
And when you get those magic moments, like, you bring Joe in for the Hand of Vecna thing, that was still ridiculous. I mean, it couldn't have worked out any better if they had scripted it that way.
Yeah.
And from talking to everyone, they
could not have scripted that. Yeah. There's just
it was not scripted. It was just a target of opportunity, and man, that was a great show.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's and to hear Joe talk about it, it's like what he's recognized for in the D&D community a lot. It's like, you did that.
Yeah. Oh, at Founders and Legends 1, Joe, we were fighting some sort of strange beast that I think was like a servant of Thurisdan or something like that, and I hasted Melf hasted Archon, and then he did some smites. He's paladin, but drawing a blank. Holy smite, whatever that's called.
Divine smite.
Yeah, there you go. Divine smite. Thank you. Jeez, I couldn't think of what that word was. So he did some divine smites or whatever, and he was rolling up all this damage. He did 315 points of damage in one round. This thing, of course, crushed it, and I was like almost dead because it had beaten on me for a while, and so it was controlling some of the party and that sort of stuff. So I knew that haste. I was like, I can either throw an offensive spell, I can do a little bit of damage, or if he makes a save, it probably might not do as much. And I said, you know what, I'm going to haste the fighter, or the paladin in this case, and he just cranked it up to 315 points. So he even had a death save shirt that said Archon 315 or something like that to put the damage, which is pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. So
yeah. I think there was a point when he was discussing working with Chris Perkins to bring Archon to the Baldur's Gate Descent in Avernus book, and he's like one of his criteria is like he has to be able to do this much damage in a round. So
yeah, I mean, come on, we all love to. There's a power gamer inside of all of us somewhere, right? I mean, at least I know. I like the power game sometimes too. And it just depends on your mood. I've played characters who are more support role, more of a talking role, more your cleric and that sort of stuff. Gosh, I'm going to go back to that Founders and Legends game because I said cleric, and probably the best example of a cleric that I've seen in a long time, if not ever, was the way Jason Lyles. He's an actor. He's like 60. All these guys were like over 6'2" at the table, but they were all giants. But he's like 6'8", 6'9". He does like the monster suit acting and stuff like that. But Jason Lyles, good dude. He was tracking everybody's hit points, like how much damage they'd taken across all the players. And at the perfect times, he would be throwing these healing spells, the healing word, and keeping people up. So I was like, wow, maybe this guy was like a WoW player, or he was a cleric or something. And they, but he was pen and paper tracking everything. He did a fantastic job. Kept us all going through that. So, if you want to watch that one, that's on YouTube. You can search Founders and Legends Finale or Founders and Legends Joe Manganiello, and you should see that game. That one is really worth watching. I've watched it a couple times. Probably the best game of D&D I'd played in a decade up to that point in time. One of my favorite games. It's
funny how those moments and those games leave such a mark too. Like, even especially like as a DM as well, where when your pieces line up and everything works in a way that you would maybe perhaps actually envisioned it could be like this, and then the players do it, and you're like, on the inside, you're just like, yes. And on the outside, you're like stone faced, like, what do
Yeah.
you do?
Yeah.
But
Well, it's just this is a situation. And inside you're like, whoa.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time, that is a wonderful feeling as the DM when things line up and they go perfectly. I don't know. It seems like as a DM, you have many times you'll make something up and you think the clues are, it's going to lead them in the right direction. They're going to get it, and then of course nobody can figure it out. It's like you're like, what do you mean you can't figure this out? This is the most, or the opposite. You think you're going to stump them, and they're like, oh, it's obviously this. You're like, uh-oh, that was supposed to take a lot longer. Now I've got to.
Yeah.
Oh, now I got to. They uncovered it. So I have in the scenario I'm going to run on Saturday. I'm going to run on the Founders channel. I'm going to run some AD&D, some old school stuff. And there's just so many games I wanted to run, so I had to do 2 channels this time. That was a decision as opposed to doing it over 2 days. Just I figured, well, people who want to watch a 5e probably less likely to watch AD&D. Although I don't know that, so maybe I'll do it 2 days next year. Yeah, but there's just too much good stuff to fit in. So I'm going to run a AD&D adventure, and you kind of have to. It's not that hard to figure out what's going on at the end, or at least I thought it wasn't. But I've played this scenario a number of times at conventions over the years, and some people figure it out right away. Other people are just stumped, and it's a part of a 2-part adventure. So you have to activate a device at the end to open a gateway to the temple that you need to get to, and they just can't open the gateway because they can't figure it out. So, and others figure it out immediately. So I guess it's just your group, and I don't know. So if you're having that problem at home, just if you run different players through, you can give them you can give them the same setup, and it comes out different just about every time.
Yeah. That's actually the part that makes me really excited to tomorrow see you guys do the Cursed Farmer, because I had the great fortune of working with Scott Fitzgerald Gray, who has been responsible for editing D&D materials for decades now, to adapt it out of Idle Champions, and so I know what that looked like when it was done, if you can ever really complete something. And so I'm very curious to see both what it's like for the players, but also like what is Satine going to do to it? Like it's it was definitely built with a lower level range in mind, and I know that she is adapting it for a group of level 8 characters. So I'm really excited to see it, and then also because everybody is playing a character that is in Idle Champions, I'm really excited to see everybody interacting with each other as those characters, because that's the kind of stuff that we can't really write how Vivka would play the Black Viper in that moment, or how B-Dave would play freely in that moment. So we're very excited to see that too.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. I don't know, like I purposely don't know what Satine has up her sleeve so that I can get the full experience out of it. But yeah. Oh, and this is the first time I get to play with Viv, and I think it might be the first time I get to play with B-Dave. I DM'd for B-Dave. I don't know if I played with him before. So this will be cool. This will be a first experience.
Yeah, B-Dave's a lot of fun. He was a guest on the stream recently, and freely joined the game last month. So. Oh,
great! Yeah, and it's good. It's good to see B-Dave. He's really a hard worker and a good guy, getting a lot of spotlight. Getting in the spotlight and getting some well earned credit for the work that he's done. I just was on a interview with him with a friend of ours down in Australia. Heath Farmden. I just did a little interview, and I hung out and we just talked for I think we were supposed to do like a half an hour, 45 minutes, and we talked for like an hour and a half because it was just fun. He's just an engaging personality, and I think he DMs like every day. He does.
He DMs through his, I think Patreon is what he uses, and so he DMs constantly. I don't know when he sleeps or if he sleeps. He just kind of
he's constantly hustling and doing games, and I guess he loves the high level stuff, so that's why he's really gonna turn up the dial.
That'll be fun. I don't think I've ever played a level 20 character. I've never had him last that long. I think the mid-teens is about as far as I've ever gotten.
Yeah, I think I got Melp up pretty high level, but other than that, yeah, no, not unless I made them up. Unless you made up a high level for a one shot or something like that. But no, it takes because there's so many times there's so many things that you don't make every saving throw, right? Sometimes just you're not going to make it in a critical moment unless the rest of the people can get you out of there, or you make a bad decision, right? Like the equivalent of jumping through the green devil mouth and Tomb of Horrors or whatever it
is. Yeah. Oh man.
So that's one thing that is kind of neat is to experience is to take people through of various backgrounds and take them back through older school style play, and then take people who are old schoolers and put them in 5th edition and just kind of see the differences. And I think I think all D&D editions are good or can be good. You know what I mean? I think edition wars are kind of silly. It's just what your expectations are and what your desires are, as well as, of course, the skill of the DM. The skill of the DM is important, obviously. But this is what you're looking for. I mean, even 4th edition, I played just one time, but I thought it was a great combat game. I just thought it wasn't what, in my mind, I thought would be D&D. So I think that's what a lot of people battle is what's your expectation? So it's expectation management.
Yeah.
I think 5e is flexible enough. It got back to being flexible enough that you run it kind of how you want it to be. You can emphasize various factors. Whether the combat's pretty easy, but you can make little add-ons or stuff to make it a little more challenging. The RP, you can role play very easily. There's the great challenge system that you can use, and you got your difficulty ratings and whatnot. It really helps the story flow very smoothly. I really like for me mechanically, I like advantage, disadvantage. It's such a simple solution. I don't know why we didn't think of that way earlier. I'm sure somebody else probably did, but it got traction there. So
yeah. And then if you watch Chris Perkins DM a stream, he'll do things like roll with double disadvantage, and people are like, "What's that?" He's like, "Oh, you roll 3 dice and take the low roll," and they're like, "Oh."
You're like, ah. Yeah, that's that's really cool. I like that. Yeah, double disadvantage. No one's going to give you double advantage, though.
No, no way.
Yeah, but it doesn't work that way. It only works the opposite way.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I'm super excited about getting to play Founders and Legends. It's one of the highlights of my year. It's a lot of work, of course, to put something together. This year's honestly maybe a little bit easier, but still challenging. Doing a studio show, you have to go in and actually set up, figure out what you want the shot to be, and then get the timing down pretty much minute to minute, if not to the second for the stream. But live streaming, I think we have that there's that tolerance. People understand, hey, you might have a technical difficulty or something might not line up perfectly, and there's not the transportation issues and all the stuff like feeding people and all that behind the scenes that you have to do, and the makeup and all that. So those pieces are easier, but now I just have to coordinate how are we connecting and make sure everyone has the right lighting and cameras and stuff. So it's quite a production to do, especially for myself, as typically I'm a soldier. So that's my primary job, is not anything streaming. So I'm just working in the office, taking care of administrative duties and that sort of stuff. So an exciting break.
Do you have I guess, how do I want to phrase this? When you finish an event like this, like when you finish a Gary Con or when you finish a Founders and Legends, like what is your post event experience, like decompression, time off? Like, do you have a go-to?
I think it's really just to, once again, reconnect with my family. I have 3 young daughters who enjoy spending time with me. And a lot of times I'll just do something like get up, cook breakfast, for them on a weekend, a nice day off, make pancakes, take them for a hike They usually complain about that. You're like, oh, do we have to hike? But then once we're out hiking around the hills of Calabasas, they really actually enjoy that quite a bit, and come back down, and we jump in the pool and cool off, and talk and listen to music, and do that. And that, for me, honestly, that recharges the batteries, and that's it. It's about family. Family is what powers us through life. It's those connections, and that can be your obviously your biological family, but to a certain extent, it's your chosen family. For a lot of us, that's the gaming community that we're in. So, doing the streams and the events and that sort of stuff is a chance to get together and connect with our family. Streaming, you can watch these cool streaming events and support charity and get entertainment out of it, and maybe get some ideas for your game and some techniques, of course, as well. And then you can also play some, hopefully continue on the adventures of these players in Idle Champions as well in your spare time. But you get a chance to connect with folks, and maybe you decide, hey, there was this join in the virtual gaming event. Connect with some folks around the world. It's a chance to meet some new people around the world and make some new friends and create new adventures. Because I think some other places are doing better than others, but a lot of people in the U.S. for sure are facing reintroduction of restrictions and quarantine measures because of an increase in COVID cases. So we want to be responsible. I know it's a bummer for everyone, right? We all want to be able to move about freely, not have to worry about wearing masks or going places and getting germs or endangering other folks and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a bummer in that sense. We probably want to go to work and do our job, and many of us can't do that. But what we can do is connect virtually and still keep the community strong. So that's why I added a virtual gaming component, which I mentioned early on. I want to keep the connection between us as a community strong. I want to be able to contribute to that in some small way, and also to look out or attempt to give companies or small publishing companies a chance to get in front of people and remind people that they're out there, because there's not physical conventions, and that's where most of these folks find their audience, right? So it's wonderful. We have a very strong, large D&D community with Wizards of the Coast, putting out a product and being able to advertise it and do lots of really cool stuff. But then I think some of the richness is from smaller press and that sort of stuff, adding into that and continuing to feed that and help keep a nice, diverse product selection and technique and stuff like that. So this is a lot of people's passion. This is their passion job. This is their hobby. So I like to see those guys strong. I like to see all of us together, and no one being too lonely. I like to game and have fun and hang out with my friends, and this is the way to do it now.
Now I know you are busy preparing for an event that starts tomorrow.
Yes, it does. Oh my gosh.
If anybody has any questions for Luke, now is the time, because in a few minutes he's got to run.
That's true.
So let's see if we can't stir them up. I know that they tend to pay attention and we need to be prompted.
And they're like, oh wait, I've got a question.
So if you have a question for Luke Gygax, please type it in chat with question at the front of it so that it stands out for us, or highlight it.
Well, I really like this. It gets me every time. This cool artwork over my shoulder there. That's that's the same guy who did this Gary Con GM shirt. It's James V. West. I just really dig his artwork, so give him a shout out. Thanks, James. Really cool artwork.
So I see one of them. One of them is like just a simple question: what is the meaning of the universe?
Oh, well, I know the answer is 42.
Yeah. The chat knows the answer is 42 as well. Another one is somebody would like to know, what was the first spell that you got to make yourself?
The first spell I made was Melf's Acid Arrow. So that spell I was playing, my first spellcaster was actually Zorko. He was a Cat of Evil magic user in my brother Ernie's game. But Melf was a fighter magic user in AD&D, and I did a fair amount of solo adventuring. And so I would be going through Greyhawk Castle. You open up a door, and oftentimes there was like a spellcaster of some sort, and then bandits or orcs or an ogre, whatever it is, and there was something in the back that was throwing spells. In the old rule set, if a spellcaster took damage during the round prior to their spell going off, the spell was negated. The spell was disrupted, and you had to scratch that spell off because you used to have to memorize and predetermine what spells you were going to take for the day. So my thought with that spell was I want to shoot an arrow and hit the spellcaster in the back and do a little bit of damage continuously over like 3 or 4 rounds, so that I have a chance to pierce through the meat shields there and then fight the spellcaster hand to hand because they were at great disadvantage. So I had to describe what I wanted and take game time out of game, pay spell components, pay for components to experiment, and consult some other higher level magic users to get some advice, and go through all those hoops and write it up. And then my dad statted it out. I wrote what I desired, which was probably stronger than how it came out, right? And then he statted it out and said, "Okay, yeah, this is the spell that works." And then we kept it.
Okay. Jadisera would like to know if you've seen the stuff for Gaxmoor yet, from the Kickstarter.
I have seen portions of that. I know we worked with Joe, went back and forth with Joe to fine-tune his contribution to Gaxmoor, and Steve is going over and editing one of the things we did is we took you could contribute is through the Kickstarter. At one of the levels you could contribute an encounter and that sort of stuff. That took a fair amount of editing to get into a good format. So, and there was a few of those, so that delayed things just a little bit, but I think it should be out. I have to double check with Steve. I think it'll be out in fall for sure. So everything is good. It's flowing along. We got all the submissions that are in. It's just getting a good final edit and making sure everything is smooth and dialed in. And it looks great. I mean, there's some wonderful tie-ins to all different sorts of places. So it's gonna kind of be, you can start in Gaxmoor and you can branch out and go anywhere. There's gates and doors and portals to all sorts of worlds now.
Cool. Nompi would like to know what you think is the best quality a Dungeon Master can have.
Well, the best thing a Dungeon Master can be is probably attentive to their players. And I was going to say a good storyteller, but you've got to tell the story that's going to entertain your group. So you got to be attentive to what your players want, what their desires are, so you can get their interest, because it's really about the back and forth and keeping their interest. So you could put on a fantastic story, but if it doesn't interest your viewer, you're lost, right? So we turn something on that could be a fantastic documentary on something I don't care about at all, like manufacturing, aluminum cans or something. It's not going to pique my interest. So if you can figure out what it is that people want and give them those bits, you're going to keep them intrigued, and they're going to give you, and you're going to have that back and forth. So, being attentive to your players.
Somebody named the Sifu has asked, what would you like more people to know about your dad that they might not already know?
Well, I think I just want to make sure that my father is remembered as one of the central figures in creating Dungeons and Dragons, along with some other folks at that time in that zeitgeist. But he's the guy who shook the dice, so to speak. I'd like people to know a little bit about the human side of my dad. So he came up with this idea, yes, and that's really cool. But he also had the drive and the courage to risk everything to publish this game. He had 5 children. He was a cobbler at the time, so shoe repairman. And we were poor. We were on food stamps. My mom gardened to support the family, like subsist. She gardened and canned food, made bread. We wore hand-me-down clothes. We didn't have a car. People picked on us, made fun of us. Having 5 kids was seen as irresponsible, and people would talk poorly about my family when I was growing up. But my dad believed in this game enough that even when everyone said, no, you can't do it, we're not going to publish this, this is a silly idea, my mom supported him to, do that as opposed to take some other kind of job, let him work as a shoe repairman. We, sucked it up as a family and just made do. He got his best friend, Don Kay, who is not a wealthy man either, to take a loan against his life insurance so that they could produce the first books. And then, he did that. So he put literally everything he had on the line to see Dungeons and Dragons be published. And then all the other things that he did to support it. Gen Con came about in 1968, and that was that's how he met the people that helped shape and give the spark to Dungeons and Dragons. That's where he met them. So he did Gen Con, co-created Dungeons and Dragons, and did all the heavy lifting and he's the superconductor that was able to fuse all this information and make it consumable and repeatable by others. And then the Dragon magazine, which was basically would serve as your internet of today. There wasn't a place where gamers could get information easily. This periodical was important, and all the iconic adventures and stuff that he did, going through the hardships of the Satanic Panic. That was a real thing. That was hard. There's people giving us death threats. There was people watching my brothers and sisters play in our yard, suspiciously parked out there for hours, looking at us, it was freaking my mom out. So yeah, just kind of the human story behind that, and I think that's important. That's interesting anyway. And then I would like folks to recognize the impact that role-playing gaming has had on our culture and how it's different. And in fact, I'm going to talk to Jim Ward, Tim Kask, and Mike Carr, I think, are going to be available to talk and kind of about it's kind of like call it a TSR roundtable, but it's really, what did the creation of Dungeons and Dragons, do to the gaming world, and what do you think its impacts are on the rest of the world? And just from their perspective, they were all there in the 70s, in the trenches at TSR making games, but not really realizing, I think, the wider impact that role-playing has had on the world, how we entertain ourselves. Some people would argue that, and I don't know about this one, but some people argue the internet, the idea for the internet was inspired by role-playing gaming and the way you connect there. There's a thesis on it somewhere. So just that larger impact, Gary Gygax, changed the world. And I think that's true. And a lot of people, just like Steve Jobs, that guy changed the world, right? And lots of people know who Steve Jobs is. How many people know who Gary Gygax is? So I don't want any undue credit, but I would like for folks for him to get the credit that is deserved, and that his name is recognized. That's it.
Cool. Well, it's 1:45. I know you have a lot of preparations to do for tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
So thank you again for taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it. And we are very much looking forward to the start of Founders and Legends 3 tomorrow. So
tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time, tune in. You got to watch it. We're going to have a great time. I get to play Melf again, which is always exciting. So thank you very much for having me on.
No worries. Thanks a lot, Luke. Have an awesome
weekend. All right, take care.
Cheers. So yeah, it's always a joy to get to talk to awesome people like Luke Gygax, and huge shout out and thanks to him for joining the show. I know there's a number of you who asked questions for Luke all at once, and I know we didn't get to all of them. I'm sorry. I just tried to pick out a few. I know that Luke gives very thorough answers, so anyways, and so this is funny. While I was prepping the call with Luke and talking with him and making sure that everything was working for today's show, I had already set up the game to run in the background. That's also why I have a Melf formation, because I figured, Luke's on stream, Melf. I have not updated the client to the latest version that includes Modron automation and multi-party mode. So if you came here hoping to ask me questions about that mode and how it works, alas, I am not the expert you were looking for. However, we had in our beta testing group a number of amazing community folks who have helped us work on and iterate on the feature for several weeks now. One of whom is none other than Garwar of Garwar's Guide to Everything in Idle Champions. So I'm going to let the deep meta expert dive into that topic probably tomorrow on his show, rather than attempting to do a less good job on it myself, given that he has extensively tested and played Modron automation and multi-party mode, and I have not even booted it up yet. I will be updating the game to that version after the stream today, but I'd already set everything up for today's show when Dave came and knocked on the door to the streaming room to let me know that the update was going out. So, I see in chat Garwar says that he's going to do split the party on the show tomorrow and answer questions. We are totally cool with that, and we are happy that you are taking that on. Furthermore, I have actually not had a lot of chance to test out Beetle and Grim yet. I saw Silesa's review on the Reddit, and apparently the Beetle and Grim is real strong. But I have not had much opportunity yet to test them out. One of the strange, interesting, and slightly different things about having everybody work remotely is that we're not all in the room where it happens at the same time anymore. The developers have their own Zoom calls or Google Hangouts or whatever it is that they're using to chat with each other. And we do our morning meetings as a group where it's, 20 faces in different windows on the screen, but we don't see everybody. What was Lisa's score? Did we finally get an 11? No, I think it was a 10, which always makes me worried because if a champion is that good, I'm like, uh-oh, that might be too good. So we'll see. I'm glad Nompi got my reference there. I'm just excited to try them out more. I'm kind of personally addicted to Artemis and Trary formations because I like the puzzle that it presents and trying to make something work. And so here I was trying to fit Beetle and Melf and Artemis and Trary in a formation, and because it's Shandy's event, I threw Shandy in there as well. What area are we in? 341. So we're 400 areas away from where the wall is. So we probably won't get there during the stream. Want to die 69. Curious to know how much the new familiars cost. So we have new gem familiars launching later this month. I don't know if the price is set on them yet. I'm not sure. So it's too early to talk about that, if only because it's not final until it's final, and it's not final. But I can confirm that they will be there. One of the things about Modron automation and multi-party mode is that you are in a position to earn, once you get the features up and running, you are in a position to earn gems at a rate that to date has not really been possible. But will become possible. And so, any pricing for new gem familiars will take that into account. So just keep that in mind. Is it Steam or is it also web for Modron automation? I believe it is currently, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure it's Steam only right this second, but I think web is not far behind. I could be incorrect. I'm going to poke somebody. Because I've been focused on getting our shows up and running and more streaming related stuff this week, and I've been a little less in the loop about the development cycle, which is, I know, weird to hear, especially since I'm on stream for the Idle Champion stream. But it's It's just how things have worked out this week. Um, yeah. Alrighty. Let's see. I know I'm annoying about this. No, you're not, Darth Junius. But the plans for ultimate interactions like dual tech and Chrono Trigger. Last stream, one developer said it's possible if the story between characters allows it. And then he said he liked it and wanted it. Any plans? So, what I can say is that there are no active plans related to that. And I say that as somebody who is a diehard Chrono Trigger fan, one of my favorite games ever made. Super Nintendo is an absolutely legendary console that holds a very large part in my gamer heart. From A Link to the Past to Super Metroid to Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6, but mostly 6, let's be honest, and Chrono Trigger. And yeah, the dual triple tech related stuff for Chrono Trigger was awesome. I think triple tech might have been Chrono Cross on PlayStation, but was super cool. Like, if you had two characters who were both ready at the same time because everything was in real time, you could activate both of them at the same time and they would perform a unique attack together. And that was very cool. And like, conceptually, the idea of that for Idle Champions is very cool. We have over 60 champions. There is no version of reality where we're going to go back and make sure that all 60 champions have interactions with each other for different ultimate abilities, because there's just no way. That being said, moving forward with potential things with future champions, it is a possibility. There may be one or more champions who can together do something, and like it would activate all of their ultimate cooldowns at once or something. I'm not quite sure, but it is certainly a possibility, and it's an exciting idea, and who knows, maybe someday. Alrighty. Anyone else having trouble getting the Beetle and Grim achievement when using speed potions? I hope I don't need to wait 3 hours needed to get 1,000 stacks. Still not getting it to appear. I'm just going to pass that along, Phantasmic Ghost, just in case there is something unintended happening with that. Who do I want to direct that towards? I'm going to direct it towards this person. Alrighty. All right. Question: how rough is automation supposed to be right now? Like, are we talking standard bugs or broken games, data loss, etc.? And this beta is on the same save as the normal game, right? Instead of being its own track, or is progress lost on launch? So, as I understand it, the only reset we have planned related to mode run automation and multi-party mode is the one that already occurred with the people who did the beta test. So they had, 3 full weeks, I think, of testing time before having the feature reset on their accounts today, before the soft launch. We are not planning on resetting it now that we've done the soft launch. We are planning on gradually rolling out the features across all of our platforms. We like to do it on Steam first and on WebGL first because we are able to much more easily adapt to anything that happens and roll out changes to fix those things. Other platforms, I'm not going to name names, but other platforms have different, what's the word I'm looking for? It takes a different amount of time to get things certified on different platforms. And it varies from platform to platform. And keep in mind that also includes, being on business days and during work hours, etc. So we wanted to make sure that before we tried to make builds for the platforms that could take us a long time to adapt to something that we might have done, we wanted to make sure that it went out to platforms that we could quickly and more easily respond to. So that's why Steam first, and that's why WebGL is coming immediately after, because we can update them like just at the drop of a hat. And in terms of how rough it is supposed to be, the beta testers did a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of smoothing out the features, and they dealt with the play test in its roughest state. And we are at a point now where we are comfortable introducing the feature to more players, to solicit a wider range of feedback and things that may not have been caught with the previous round of testing. So it is still a beta feature, but it is not an alpha feature, and it is not an early closed beta test. It is an open beta test now, basically. Does that describe it accurately enough for you, OG17? That's about as much information as I can really give on it. Snow 0815. Sorry I missed that. What is supposed to increase gem gain rate? So Modron automation and multi-party mode are features that allow you to run multiple instances of the game simultaneously, meaning that you could set up a gem farming loop that runs independently of your main completion loop or completing variants or whatever, allowing you to create a steady resource of gems, or if you wanted to gem farm on multiple formations at the same time. And so that allows you to earn gems at a rate that was not previously possible, but sure is now. Alrighty. You've probably covered this already. I apologize, but how do you launch these new modes? Well, you can't see it in my game right now, but there is an adventure called Split the Party that is an extremely difficult adventure to complete. That anybody who opts into using Modron automation and multi-party mode now will complete that adventure, unlocking the feature, and that's how you get it started. So you're going to need to complete Split the Party first. And as mentioned in chat earlier, Garwar is going to be demoing completion of that adventure during his stream tomorrow, and answering questions on it. He's had a fair amount of time to work on and play test the feature so far. Alrighty, I'm just gonna take a sip of water while I read some of these questions. Dead Air 3. Question. Any thought on giving us a top level reached so far for all of the free plays instead of just the event ones? I don't personally have a thought on that, but that's a suggestion I can pass along, so I will. Just making a note. This is an interesting question from Cassius335. Can some of the older champions get a second ultimate ability? Brunner could use a better one, for example. That is an interesting question. I don't know that we ever plan to do follow-up ultimate ability, like second ultimates, so that a champion might have more than one, or anything like that for our characters. But I do know that, just as an example, I find it interesting that you chose Brunner, because Brunner's ultimate ability, in the context of the game when we launched on early access in 2017, his ultimate ability was, the game tutorial and the first mission was tied into using it in a specific way and all this stuff. But the game has changed a lot since then. Most notably, the fact that Brunner does not have a high overwhelm number because he's not a tank, and in that tutorial adventure, you kind of need to be tanky for parts of it. So there's that challenge level added to it. And so I don't know that we're planning on doing second ultimates or updated ultimates or anything like that, but I can pass that feedback along because it's an interesting idea. And who knows? Somebody in chat mentioned it, and I just want to reiterate this point. I actually quite like Brunner's ultimate in that it's one that you can drop a familiar on and he will cast it over and over again, and it will hit at least as hard as whomever your main DPS is, right? Because it's using Bud, so it's a consistent hard hit, which is actually kind of useful at later levels. Alrighty. Dylan, are the staff working or wondering about something about specialization classes for us? I think it will add much to our already large pool of champions and formations. Specialist classes. It's not something we're planning to do. That being said, this is a live service game, and nobody has a crystal ball that can see into the future years from now about what this game will necessarily look like at that point. except maybe Justin. So I don't know if that's something that he is planning, but I could certainly let him know that that's something that interests you. Bum, 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 bum. How do I force the game to update so I can opt into the beta? Well, Raphael, if you are playing the Steam version of Idle Champions right now, simply close your client and go into your Steam and go to your Idle Champions page, and you should right now have the blue update button with the little circle arrow that says update to signify that there's an update waiting for your client. And so hopefully you have that, and then once the game is closed, you click the button to update, you download the update, you reload it, and you will be prompted about whether or not you wish to make use of Modron automation and multi-party mode before the official launch later this month. How many instances of the game will be able to run at once, and how heavy will it be on the hardware? That is a great question for one of our developers, whom I don't have. But that is something that I would expect to see in our developer blog on Modron automation and multi-party mode, which will be coming later this month. Now, I know that ideally you would want the developer blog and the FAQ before a feature comes to the game. But because we are doing wider testing right now, and we anticipate that we will be making more changes to Modron automation and multi-party mode before the official launch later this month, we wanted to make sure that the developer blog came out when the feature is widely available to everybody, and the features are also in a more closer to a state of completion. So that will be arriving later this month. Now that we have 2 champions in one slot, can we get a Rick and Morty champion? I mean, first things first, I can't imagine there's a world where we would be able to successfully license Rick and Morty from Adult Swim for use in Idle Champions. It just, that strikes me as highly unlikely. That being said, we are very happy that Jim Zub and Pat Rothfuss are in a position to work with those characters for Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons comic series. And I think the second series of that comes out later this year. So that's exciting. I know Jim was very excited to be working on it. All right, so moving on to the next question. Alrighty, Dylan, if 2 ultimate attacks is an idea that does not gain much traction, could another option be that champion ultimates get a boost to their ultimate at a certain level, i.e. the ultimate gets a level 2? That is also a really interesting idea. Yeah, I will pass that along. Ultimate abilities are very fascinating gameplay-wise in how they've evolved over the lifetime of the game, from when they've been good to when they've been less useful to, now we have a number of them that can stack their abilities in different ways. It's that's pretty crazy. Like, I know that having Krull and his as his zombie explosion is so good for like shredding boss armor, and like you have Dinar also doing that, and like you could set that up to like just nuke armored bosses like that, whereas when armored bosses came out, you had to rely on champions hitting them a lot to kill it, and like it was almost stressful even, there's always room for iteration and evolution. Right now we're still very much focused on updating Modron automation and multi-party mode, addressing the bugs, smoothing out the features, and getting it ready for all platforms later on this month. Can we expect more double champions like Beetle and Grim, or is this a one-time thing? I don't think that you can expect more double, like tag team style champions, because it was one of those things where when we were talking with the folks at Beetle and Grimm's Pandemonium Warehouse, or I think they just go by Beetle and Grimm's now, but when we were talking with them, and we were talking about bringing Beetle and Grimm to the game, because Beetle and Grimm are so intertwined, we're like, this is a really great opportunity to explore the idea of a tag team champion, to, create a champion where part of their inherent mechanics is swapping between the two champions. So in our minds, this is a first test of doing something like that. I can confirm that we do not currently have any other champions in development that have a similar mechanic. That I know of. The next half dozen plus champions are all single, individuals. So I know that doesn't answer it wholly, but like I can't give a more definitive answer than that. So I hope that helps. I think Dylan said that Idle Champions had the next 23 years of champions lined up. We certainly have more than 23 years of options for champions potentially there. We have, a large number of characters from just the history of the Forgotten Realms and Dungeons and Dragons that we could potentially add to the game. Like that list is very long, and we've to date mostly focused on champions who are, who have been represented in fifth edition at some point, for the most part. Nearly all the characters have, who, are, I guess, more modern era characters, like Farida and Havilar, and, possibly their adopted father someday. And then people that we really enjoy working with, because D&D is now, has a bunch of shows that people watch. It's not just that 80s cartoon you think about when you think about a D&D show. Now you think about Critical Role and Acquisitions Incorporated, and the breadth of podcasts is pretty significant as well. There's a lot of shows. And so we've kind of, we are in that right now, I guess is the best way of putting it. To finish the groups we have already started in the game, we are pretty heavily locked in for many of our character slots until at least mid next year, mid 2021. There's a little bit more flexibility in terms of things getting shuffled around more than 3 months out from now. But for the next couple of months, things are locked in just because of development timelines. Like we have already created, drawn, animated, and play tested the next two champions coming to the game as part of events following Midsummer 3. So the next Agaron's Day and I think Shield Meet? No, not Shield Meet. What's it called? Why am I forgetting the name? Shield Meet is a part of this event. Agaron's Day and I'll remember it after Wolfguard's event. And then, we are already actually, I think we might even have animated and finished the champion for High Harvesttide 4 and are in the midst of developing and, finishing animation and stuff on the subsequent champions. Like, I do know who our December 2nd Simril champion is at this point. It's, we've already had those calls. They are mostly designed. So that's kind of where we're at. So 23 years of characters ready? No. But with the way that we have to develop across all these platforms now that we are available on 8 or 9 platforms, that means that we need to have things locked in and finished much further out than we used to. If you are under the limit needed for opening patrons, do Beetle and Grimm count at 1 or 2? They would count at 1, but I'm going to make the argument that they should count at 2. I'll pass that along to the dev team. They're going to say no, but I'm still going to make the argument. Is there patch notes somewhere? Yeah, patch notes should be located in the corner of your screen. There's a changelog button in the bottom right that, oh, you know what? I just realized on my screen there's an overlay in the way. You won't be able to see it. So, game view. Down here, changelog, plunk, and it should have the information in there. Now, I know that while we are just constantly putting out bug fixes for mode run automation and multi-party mode, like we are very likely to be doing for the next little while here, that, the patch notes might not always be there. Explaining which individual bugs have been fixed. We aspire to be able to include all those notes every single time. But while we are all working remotely collectively to get these things done, It doesn't always happen, so please be patient with us and our developers while we work on that. We want to make this a smoother, better gaming experience for everybody. Thoughts on more free-to-play familiars or ones costing gems? I said earlier in the stream, Spazzing Fish, that our next round of familiars, we have 3 familiars coming to the game that will be unlocked with gems soon, with an update targeted for the end of this month. Are individual familiars ever going to have abilities of their own? That's an interesting question, Silver Griffin. It's not something that we have talked about or currently have intention to explore with familiar design, but it's always a possibility. Familiars are, first of all, if you haven't used a familiar playing D&D, like you haven't played a character who has a familiar, they're awesome and so much fun. Especially if you are in a position to have one of the more advanced ones, like you're a warlock that's packed to the chain, I think it's called. That sounds not quite right, but I think that's it. The chain warlock. There's a warlock that gets familiars. There's blade, tome, and chain, and chain is the one where you get the souped up familiar. That's awesome, and it's super rad. Tome is also rad, by the way, as somebody who likes playing warlocks, because you get ritual spells and stuff, and that's just great for warlocks because you only have a few spell slots. And then blade, because if you like stabbing things as a warlock, blade is the best. But anyways, familiars in D&D are great because you can do a lot of really fun stuff with them, and you can create a lot of headaches for your DM. And as a DM, I can tell you that familiars are frequently a headache because they allow players to do obnoxious stuff. So familiars are great. There is always a chance that we will iterate on their design and functionality more. As it stands right now, now that players will be able to unlock mode-drawn automation and multi-party mode, you're going to want as many familiars as you can get because you'll want to assign familiars to your other formations. So, yeah. Beetle and Grim, always side by side, inseparable, except in Idle Champions, where there's no way for them to be on screen at the same time ever at any point. Yeah, that's not lost on us, Koshi69. It's kind of funny in that way, but like the spirit of Grim is always there, right? Because when you bring him in, he's awesome. Alrighty. Monkey House. Any thoughts on expanding gold chests to cover more champions, like year 1 at first and then on from there? So that would be a massive and significant change to the way our in-game chest system works. And so that is a question by far best suited for Justin. Since if there was going to be a change like that, that's one that he would architect and design. So I hesitate to speculate much on it. What I can say is that I appreciate from a player perspective why that would look like a really cool idea and solution to a number of different things. But ultimately, I don't know. Part of how this game is designed as a free-to-play title, but we do rely on some players contributing to the development costs and such, and keeping these lights on, and moving loot that is currently only available through time gates and events and purchases to something that is a relatively easy to farm type of chest could be a huge problem for us for our how the game functions. So I don't know. I would it's a great big maybe, but it's a good question to ask Justin the next time he's around. When the Beetle and Grim tag team activates, why is it the incoming champion that ultimate attacks, not the outgoing one that supposedly needs a rest? Because the outgoing one needs a rest. Like, you're not going to throw your best hit when you're tired. Whereas, like, I mean, let's be honest. How many of us have watched wrestling? How many of us like watching WrestleMania every year when they can? Although didn't this year because of things. You know, when you finally crawl over to the ropes and you get your hand on that rope and you pull yourself up and your buddy's there leaning with his hand out for you to tag it, and you slap it, the guy who's kicking your ass is like, because the other guy comes in and he's all fresh, he's like, and he cracks his knuckles and then he lays down the beating. So when you tag out, it's the incoming person gets the hit. That's how it works, and then you rest and then you get ready to be the one who gives the hit. I won't get into the other part where tag team partners are fighting outside the ring, but maybe someday we'll be able to integrate that into the game somehow. Maybe we could have a two-headed ogre CNE champion. One head is Dylan, the other one is Justin. That'd be amusing. Yeah. I mean, the design leads for this game are Justin and Chris Dupuis, so if anybody was going to get a two-headed ogre, it would be them. Are there two-headed ogres in D&D? I think that's a World of Warcraft thing. I don't think we could even do that. Anyways. Speaking of which, do chests count for Beetle and Grim always, or only depending on which one is active? Does Inseparable work on chests, basically? I'm not sure I understand your question. Ettins. Right, Ettins, yeah. Yeah, it's Hall Ogre now. All right, I'm writing this down. Hold on. I need to open a thing. Is there an Ettin stat block for a player character, or is it only a bad guy thing? The only reason I'm writing this down is because of that pun, by the way. It's all ogre now. Oh, man. That makes me so happy. Okay. Yeah. Anyways. Dara Strygrat, I'm not sure I understand what you mean about whether or not chests count for Beetle and Grim always, or only depending on which one is active. Beetle and Grim share a chest that is a Beetle and Grim chest, so I'm not sure I get that. Oh, can you get Beetle and Grim gear from Mert chests when Beetle is the active champion? Oh, I see. Yeah, because they have... That is a very interesting question. I don't know. I'm going to pass that along to the devs. Right now. Because I have no idea. Where is... It's hard to copy and paste from the Twitch chat as it's moving. Okay, I'm going to try and get back to that one. So I'm just making a note. Because I have no idea. Alrighty. It would be cool to see a familiar clicking and then randomly send a basic ultimate damage attack at a mod. I mean, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. Are there any vampire champions coming up? Oh, trying to think of who's coming up in the next little while. No, there are no vampire champions coming up, but there is one champion coming up who is damn good at killing vampires. Let's see. It would be cool if there were sets of familiars, could even do some kind of fun buffs for certain sets. Huh. That's an interesting idea. You guys are really thinking about familiars today. Familiar sets. I mean, I worry about turning it into a gotta catch 'em all kind of situation. But sets of familiars. I don't know. I'll pass that idea along too. That's a note for the Dupuis. Let's see. Following up on familiars, will you be able to use the same ones in more than one run at the same time? No. Familiars and champions will be exclusive to wherever you have them set up. So if you put your Mage Hand familiar in your one of your Modron, one of your automated extra instances of the game, it will not be available elsewhere. I keep seeing fairies riding dogs, but where are the goblin warg riders? Hey, that's a great point. I'm going to pass that along to Dupuis. More wargs. More wargs. All right. Some of us are more than happy to keep throwing cash at this game to keep you guys going. If anything, I just want more skin. First of all, thank you, Slow Buildings. Well, if you like skins for Idle Champions, tomorrow will be your day. But you'll have to tune into Griddle Champions to see why, because I'm not going to spoil their thunder. Let's just say we have something very, very fun and unique planned that we have not done with them before. So the note that I got about Beetle and Grim chests is that because they are one champion, you get their gear from any patron chest. I'm keen on getting familiars to do much more than clicking, but I'd really like an option to alter click timers in some way. Would that ever be possible? That is not something that we have planned. Like, the only thing that you could do to alter your click timer in terms of familiars clicking is because they click at the same rate no matter where you put them anywhere in the UI. But you can adjust the click timer in a sense by changing the number of familiars you have available on the battlefield clicking away. I don't know that we're ever going to do anything to click rate. I can pass that feedback along. I'm not optimistic about anything coming of it, but I will still pass it along because that is why I'm here. So, is the buy additional cores preview thing active at all? Can we progress on this chart, or is that not live yet? I can't really speak to Modron automation and multi-party mode. I don't even have it turned on this account yet. Sorry, Lord Tithus. I know that this is normally the place you would come for that kind of information. Luckily, Garwar will have you covered tomorrow. Does it state anywhere that ogres never have two heads in D&D? I'm sure it doesn't, because it's D&D doesn't tend to very often focus on limiting creativity and options. It tends to focus on giving you more options. So, yeah. Will Beetle and Grim ever be in two multi-adventure modes, one in the first and the other in the second? No. They take up one champion slot, so once you have Beetle and or Grim in one formation, you're not going to have access to the other one anywhere else. There is not an Etten player race, but don't let that stop you. I mean, we have such a long list of characters already coming. I am especially excited for... we have a champion coming up that is both a goblin and an artificer that I got to contribute to some of their design, and I am very, very excited. It's very cool. Yeah. Is Justin getting in stream similar to Margaret's former coloring sheets? Like, once the level of that's a Justin question hits 100, Justin appears in stream to answer. I mean, one of the challenges, like, so Justin is very busy, to put it mildly. Like, Justin is just, he's busy. And now that we work remotely and we can't just like snag somebody briefly from the office to bring them over on stream, it's much, much harder to line up dev time because we have to coordinate it in a different way. And so, the chances of getting him on stream are just lower now. It's just harder to do. It doesn't mean that we never will. And we certainly have plans for a dev Q&A as part of the overall Modron automation multi-party mode full launch later this month. So that will probably be the next opportunity to ask Justin a question. But until then, he's busy working, likely trying to fix anything that's currently happening with the latest updates. Does anybody know if Tiamat's Blessing, Veterans of Avernus, does that buff base on all variants within the Avernus section, or just count the variants within Avernus itself? No, it's the campaign. Yeah. Question, can we get an Artificer champion? It's funny that I would get to this question after I already answered that. Yes, we can. Yeah, sometime in the next couple months, relatively soon. And I think personally that they're very, very neat, and I'm curious to see what everybody's reaction is to them. Or maybe Undead Champions. I quite liked the Undead Paladin in an early D&D game. Do we have any undead characters coming? No, I don't think we have any characters. We don't have any mortally challenged characters coming. Uh, um, yeah. So I'll just say, like, it's a possibility. Certainly, if we ever made a character who happened to be, you know, infected with vampirism, we would be putting an undead champion in the game. So it's always possible. How much longer do we have to wait for Toragar Steelfist to join Archon the Cruel and Krull? How much longer? That would be spoilers. Yeah, that would be spoilers. So I'll just say soon, TM. A Hydra monster character where every head is a member of the C&E staff. So a 20 something, 24 headed Hydra. Welcome, Mars. Yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? Dylan, what is your favorite familiar? My favorite familiar, currently available to everybody in game, is the Baby Spurt familiar, because it's so cute. But at the end of the month, that will change into the Fluffy Beholder familiar, which I think is cuter. But, you know, as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, I went there. I'm a dad now. I can make dad jokes. I'm sure this is a new question, but how do I suppress the conversation tree between levels? So, just to actually open my UI, in your settings, there is a conversation part. Where is it? There's skip cinematics and free play. So because I'm doing a free play, it doesn't even show. And then there's a cinematic speed slider. Like manual means that you have to click for each bit of dialogue to go through. And then you have different speeds. And then the other one is instant, where it pops up really, really quickly. So this is your dialogue slider, and this is your option to skip the cinematics and free play. Though I would encourage you to at least once check out the dialogue, as Scott Fitzgerald Gray is a very talented writer, and he put a lot of work into it. He's written, you know, more than 90% of the adventure dialogue in our game. Or he has worked on at least 90% of it. I know that Chris Dupuis has written quite a bit of it. And I know that the first adventures that we ever did were written by Justin and David. So. Margaret won't let Dylan spoil, and conversely, Dylan won't let Margaret spoil. Is this an infinite loop? I mean, yes. Yes, it is. Who am I kidding? There are no spoilers anymore. There is only the stream. We need a setting to suppress after one-time read-through. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what you're doing, but when it's set to instant, it goes pretty quickly. Yeah. Oh, I just got the adventuring parties button. Congratulations, Schooly. Yeah. Beauty as well as death rays are in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, yeah. I remember I was playing the Tomb of Annihilation campaign. It was the last campaign I was playing in my home game. One of my closest friends for the last 25 plus years now, 27 years, something like that, was DMing it. We had made it to the Tomb of Annihilation. We had a party of a tiefling rogue, a gnome bard. Yeah, she was a bard. A Goliath barbarian who was our squishy tank boy, and then I was playing an Azamar cleric, Death Domain cleric actually, the one from the Dungeon Master's Guide, not the Grave Domain one from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. We made it into the Tomb of Annihilation. We've been fighting our way through the different levels of it. I'm not going to spoil everything that's in there, but there is one encounter with a beholder in the book, and I gotta say, it was a ruthless encounter that probably would have killed one of our party members, except when the beholder turned away from my cleric, I cast blindness on it and it failed to save. And my DM just he just had the most disappointed sigh. He was just like, where he's like letting go of some frustration. And then he turns to me, he's like, you can't blind all the eye stalks. You can choose whether you blind the eye stalks or the main eye itself. And I was like, main eye, get rid of that anti-magic aura. And then, so I did that, and then we just nuked it with spells and killed it. Yeah, beholders they're so cool. In our Office Curse of Strahd campaign, we fought one of the undead ones, and it was a challenge. Yeah, it was fun though. I don't know. Beholders are the kind of encounter that I really like, in that they force you to play with something that is not normally a part of the game that could potentially just devastate a party, right? Like, kind of like flail snails, where it's like, oh crap, might be a route that you normally use to fight or deal with a lot of encounters in combat, and all of a sudden you can't do it. Like, it's just not an option against this particular enemy. And so, yeah, it's D&D, man. It's fun. It's a good time. Let's see. Darth Junius. Question. Briv skips a boss. Doesn't allow Nova to collect brains. Is that a bug, or is it working as intended? I know there are some ongoing issues related to Nova collecting brains. I'm not aware of all of them or what stages of being fixed they're at, but Darth Junius, I will pass that along. Bum, 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 bum. I had a DM that made a beholder out of dragon heads. Dude is an evil genius. I mean, that sounds inspired. It sounds like a big beholder. So Tiamat goes out of her way to kill and devour any multi-headed dragon to make sure that she is always the only one. So I feel like if there was a beholder made out of dragon heads, Tiamat would show up and eat it. Just straight up. Just om nom nom nom. Yeah, but otherwise, that's super dope. I don't know. I like there's an opportunity for creativity in your home D&D campaigns that I've always really really loved, both in terms of how you can address things, and like I am currently DMing 2 campaigns. One is nearing the end of Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and one of them is about to hit the end of the second chapter of Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus, and like, I haven't gone off book very much with the Descent into Avernus one yet. Like, I have in terms of describing some things and some settings and some of the events that the player characters have witnessed occurring in their game world that are they're not parts of the book. I mean, that's what everybody does when they DM, right? But I like to do it in such a way that it ensures that I've laid the groundwork for things that I can go back to under different contexts. For example, I hope none of them are watching this stream right now, and I'm sure they're not, because, I'm sure that they're not. But there is a point in the Descent into Avernus book when you get transported, you get plane shifted to Avernus. And I made it so that the wizard that was doing that was one that was studying chronergy and had to last minute change their spell circle in order to transport them to Avernus. And so he kind of walked around, and I described him moving around the spell circle, writing stuff in, and then going up to one part and looking at it quizzically, and then licking his hand and scraping the chalk and writing over it, which my players were like, did he just, is he what? Just to make them uncomfortable before he sends them to Avernus 10,000 years ago. Which made for a really, really fun session of RP in a very different Avernus from the one that currently exists, the modern Avernus. And that's just part of being a DM and just having fun with it, and the opportunity for creativity. There's always different stuff you can do. They're finally in modern Avernus, but I'm going to throw a whole bunch of intense curveballs their way, while also giving them the storytelling elements, just to see what interests them the most and what directions they go in. I have plans for an infernal war machine that is basically a 100 car passenger train, but it's a mechanized centipede troop transport that's just charging through the wasteland. and the front of it is this giant furnace engine that devours things to keep it running. Just like you get eaten and you become it devours you and your soul to feed the engine on your way through. Sort of like the Demon Grinder, if the Demon Grinder was 100 times longer, like segmented together, and instead of being on wheels, it's like a mix of treads and like centipede legs. And so they're going to deal with that platform, and it's going to be super fun. Yeah, that'll be fun. Plus, I can use some of the Warforged Titan stat block stuff that's in the Eberron Rising from the Last War book to play with the mechanized weapon systems that are on this, centipede mecha train devourer. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to describe and fun to make them deal with it. Alrighty, I have a plan for a baby beholder type encounter that I'm looking forward to. The warlock in the party is looking for who worships an eldritch being in Eberron and is going to take off his chest to reveal eyes and a head on his head. That's fun. I like it. Baby beholder. Beholders are just neat. They're such a quirky, weird thing. Like the fact that they'll like get paranoid about another beholder and then like make one, and then like they can't coexist, and so they're just like everything about beholders is super weird, and I love it. Had a central eye, and that each eye stalk had an eye beam and a breath weapon. Oh God. Oh man. Let's see. Any plan on big improvements for the PS4 game? Getting very bad after 30 minutes, or wave 400 to 500, kind of like a slideshow. We're always iterating on it. I know that there are times when our players on different platforms might feel ignored because they see updates going out for things and things get worse or just don't get improved for them, and it does on other ones. We're always working on all of it. So, Sokka, I would ask that you put in an in-game support ticket flagging when you start to see the issue, so that when we look at it, we can try and replicate it and see what the issue is. Because, that doesn't sound like an ideal play experience to me. Wyverny Wynn made a human centipede joke, and I am slightly disturbed. Just unlocked Shandy, and I love her speed. Does her dash ability stack with the speed potions? It does work with the speed potions, but the cap is still at the same point. So what Shandy's dash will allow you to do is hit the cap, the speed increase cap, while using fewer potions. Is there going to be a split the party free play? Not as far as I know, Mr. Blonde. But I'm glad you are a fan of Reservoir Dogs. That was a good movie. Raven's Voice. Did you call your centipede Avernus train Flame Piercer? 101 cars long? Oh man, now that you said that, I don't know that I cannot. I think I might have to. Like, the whole thing is it's its own self-contained ecosystem. My idea was that it was going to be run by these like artificers at the front, and it was like it transports troops from the different layers of the Nine Hells, and so like it just kind of like burrows through into different ones. So like it'll go over by its route would take it past. I don't know how many of you have looked at the map for Avernus, or know much about the lore of the map, but where Tiamat's lair is right by the entrance / exit where you can go down to Dis, the second level of the Nine Hells. And so this thing was going to be a transport that makes its way through several levels of the Nine Hells, probably everywhere from Stygia upward. Because I don't know how many of you know, but like a lot of aspiring demons, to become combat ready, they go to Stygia, where the wasteland and the creatures are the most inhospitable, to train before, whatever. So it would be going between Stygia and Avernus and just kind of like ripping through the levels and like burrowing through things. And calling it Flame Piercer is a great idea, and I'm going to steal it, Raven's Voice. Thank you. We have so many forest missions, we need a treant boss with an Oz joke at the end conversation, which would be epic. I think we have a couple tree bosses in the game, don't we? They don't make Oz jokes though. I don't know that we would do that. Still, it's amusing. I'm laughing on the inside. I swear. I'm just gonna click on some things to make this battle go faster. Blah 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 blah. Boom. Just tearing through. How much did my number just go up at bringing Grim in? Good Lord. Oh, I just got the achievement. All I had to do was let Beetle sit there for 450 areas before I brought Grim in. Wow. Cool. Okay. Wow, 240 already. I feel like I am talking a lot, but since I am currently the only person in this room, I guess that makes sense. I see also that there is a beholder draw going. Cool. I think this is the last one, right, Jay? What else? What else is going on? Obviously, Midsummer 3 is happening now. We'll be wrapping up on, I want to say the 27th? Yes, the 27th. How are you all doing? One of the things that I try to do with everybody that I see in person these days, which is to say very few people, but through Zoom calls, is just checking in and seeing how people are, how people are holding up. I know that gaming and streams like this are generally a retreat from the real world. Especially given that things that are happening can be overwhelming, and this year has been overwhelming. And so I hope sincerely that you are all doing well, that you are okay, that you are in a position to be safe, practice social distancing, that you are that your needs are met, and that you're doing all right. Yeah, it's, I don't know what else to say beyond that. I know that there are a lot of challenges that a lot of people are experiencing right now. So I hope that you're doing okay, and that playing our game and then participating in the D&D and Idle Champions communities is something that helps. Yeah. It's funny. I've been just kind of catching up on stuff. I know that I talked a bunch about Studio Ghibli a couple weeks ago, and I was sad to hear that it's not on American Netflix and is instead on HBO Max. But my wife and I have been working our way through the category of films slowly. We watched Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. We watched Tales from Earthsea, which I wasn't the hugest fan of. It felt like it might not have been the right collection of stories to adapt, but it was certainly beautiful and well made. We watched Castle in the Sky, which I hadn't seen since I was a little kid, and it weirded me out how much of it I still remembered. Because, Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind and Castle in the Sky are films that I saw when I was, 10 years old, maybe, if that. And so to be watching them and be like, oh, I remember this part, and, I'm a little older than 10 now. let's just say that. I am approaching many times, several times over 10. And we watched Kiki's Delivery Service again, which is just a pure joy. We watched Howl's Moving Castle, which is honestly one of the best animated films ever frickin' made. I wasn't super blown away by the dub, but I really enjoyed it. I was actually really sad watching Kiki's Delivery Service because the modern dub of it, it has Phil Hartman, who, he passed away a long time ago now, but he was one of my he played a number of my favorite characters on The Simpsons throughout the 90s, and he was a great actor when he was on SNL, and I liked him on News Radio. And so hearing his voice as Kiki's cat in Kiki's Delivery Service was that was a throwback. That was also, when I finally recognized who it was also a little sad. And my wife didn't know who Phil Hartman was, and I'm like, well, this is what happened. And she was like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. And so that was pretty cool. And then the next one we're going to be watching is My Neighbor Totoro. And then I'm not sure which ones we're going to tackle after that. And we're very loosely going. We were at first kind of trying to go through them in order, but then we jumped ahead and back just because of the moods that we were in watching different things. So, yeah. Badger Buccaneer. I just figured out that my daily lifestyle I've had for the past many years is called quarantine. Yeah, I think that if you were already somebody who maybe leans a little bit more towards being introverted and you prefer your own company to the company of others, that, this whole global pandemic thing is a little bit different for you than a lot of others. Now you're kind of like, it's not that it's not challenging. I mean, I personally find myself as somebody who leans towards being introverted more so than extroverted. It's kind of like I'm kind of like on the cusp. I can kind of go one way or the other, but I prefer introverted. That like, even though I prefer being introverted, I've been a few months of not seeing anybody outside your household. You start to feel pretty caged in. You get a little cabin feverish. So, yeah, it's been a time. Yeah. Damned. Thank you, Dylan. This community is especially nice during these crazy times. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. We aspire to have a really welcoming and warm and happy and helpful community. And we do our best. I have a question. Does the different skins matter, or will teams perform just as well with default skins? Sage Slayer, skins are purely an aesthetic difference for your formations. They make no difference gameplay wise. That being said, some of the skin DLC packs include a feat for that character that is unique to that pack, that can change up your gameplay, but the skin is not what does that. Tinfall says Howl's was certainly my favorite of the bunch. Yeah, Howl's Moving Castle is my wife's favorite film. And I realized when I was watching it that I actually hadn't seen it, and I thought that I had. And I really liked it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a really interesting and unique story. I like that Hayao Miyazaki, he tends to fit in sort of like anti-war pacifist sentiment into many of his productions. And it's interesting to watch a hero where the main character aspires to be a pacifist. Like, Howell himself does not, intentionally commit acts of violence unless he's in the defense of somebody else. The whole reason that he is in his moving castle is, all of it is his being. He's a very interesting character. I really liked it. Calcifer steals the show in every scene that Calcifer is in, but Howl's Moving Castle is great. Yeah. Why do I always close the game instead of pushing the close button at the bottom of the chess screen? The button seems to be in a weird location. Yeah, I mean, muscle memory maybe. You can hit escape to get out of many of the screens if you're playing the Steam version of the game. I thought we would get an interview with one of the two guys who played Beal and Grimm today or next week. Is it too hard to schedule, Dylan? Folks are busy. Yeah, it may happen. It may not. Yeah. Does anyone know if that Warden skin released, Mikolas? What can I say about the Warden skin? First of all, the Warden skin that Mikolas is referencing is Siren Night Warden, which I have right here. Whoops. Just gonna level up Warden to the cap because reasons, but this skin. A skin which envisions a Warden that had not been corrupted by whatever it is that corrupted a Warden. This skin will become available later this month. Exactly how, it's a little bit early to spoil, but stay tuned. You will find out exactly how through our social media in the coming weeks. Yeah. I look forward to talking about it more. And kudos to Adam for doing such a good job on that skin. When we were talking about it, we took the Eberron Rising from the Last War book, and if you open it to the last page, one of the last page is just a generic Warforged soldier piece of key art that's beautiful, which inspired a lot of the design. And then Adam did some research into Keith Baker's blog to get enough information about how to do a crest for the Kingdom of Sire, which is described but has no official key art of that we have been able to find. So, some extra work. Also coming at the end of the month will be several other new skins, all of which look cool. Dave the Aztec, come on, drop a Warden hint code. It's the last one. I'm not. I have something special planned for that, and I'm not gonna spoil it. But I'm glad that you were excited to find it. Can you talk about the upcoming adventuring parties? Not really. It's a feature that I am not personally that familiar with because I haven't been involved in any of the what do you call it? The testing for it. I haven't really looked into it yet, and so I am not an expert, so I don't want to dive too much into it. What I can say about the adventuring parties is that Modron automation and multi-party mode are opt-in features on Steam. The update went out later today, in case you haven't seen it. In order to start it, there's an adventure variant called Split the Party that you have to complete in order to unlock the feature, and that will send you on that journey. Now, we are lucky to have a really awesome community of players who have been helping to beta test this content as part of a closed beta. Now that it is open, and one of them, the infamous pirate Garwar, who sometimes raids streams and Yarwars his way around. Garwar has tested Modron automation and multi-party mode extensively, and has mentioned in mentioned in chat today that he will be going over Split the Party during his stream tomorrow, which is at 1 p.m. Pacific on the C&E Games Twitch for a couple hours. And, he has had a lot more time to dive into the feature and everything about it than I have. I have seen high-level planning documents, and that's about it. So, yeah. How about an evil code hint other than it's evil? No. Warden will get a hint at some point. I've actually planned out when. Every once in a while you get inspired and you see something cool, a cool opportunity, and you plan something, and so there will eventually be one. That's all I can say. Hey, the code is active until January 1st. If somebody finds it before then, they find it before then. But I can say that there will be a hint for it before the end of the year. Anyway, so it's 2:53, and we usually like to cut things off at 2:55 just to make sure that there's a little buffer there for whatever show is coming up on the D&D Twitch at 3 p.m. I know it used to be Welch's Game Juice, but I don't think it is anymore. I think they've updated their schedule since. So first things first, huge shout out and thank you to Luke Gygax for cutting out a window of his time today to join me on stream to talk about Founders and Legends and D&D and his father's legacy, because Founders and Legends 3 is tomorrow, and I used to run events, and I know how much work they are. So the fact that he made time today is a huge generous move on his part, and we're very thankful. So shout out to Luke Gygax for joining me today. This has been our show for Thursday, July 16th, 2020, the year of many decades. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for participating in the Idle Champions and Dungeons and Dragons communities. You guys are all awesome. This show exists because of a number of amazing, cool, rad, awesome, what other words do people use these days? Tubular, or is that 290s? People behind the scenes, including our co-producer / moderator, Jay, our executive producer, Erica, and our partners at Dungeons & Dragons, Greg, Bart, Pelham, Allison, Shawling, and Lisa. Take care, everybody. Be sure to tune in tomorrow morning for Griddle Champions to get a really cool first look at some of the new things, new skins coming to Idle Champions. They're going to be previewing content as part of Griddle Champions, and I'm super excited. So take care, everybody. And of course, stay safe, stay healthy, and I hope you do well. Have a great weekend.